Hey, check it out. Got a new conditioner.
Oh,
Yeah. So, you've heard of, aircon,
yeah?
right?
Yeah, I've heard that. I heard of that.
The air is too much in one direction. Make the air the other
Condition
thing.
the air.
Condition the air.
Con the air.
Have you ever just walked into a room and just, the vibes are bad?
Oh, yeah.
Well, this is a vibe conditioner.
Oh, VibeCon.
Yeah. So you just whack it on, right?
Yeah.
I've been feeling a bit gloomy or a bit...
Yeah. I see how it's works.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. That's really good. It's just like a little holiday, really.
Oh.
I am thinking, though,
Yeah.
what if I just cranked it to max and pointed it out the window, just because of gestures broadly at all of that?
I think we're going to need more than one to get that working.
Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not gonna keep shouting at the microphone like that.
No, you're not going to show them.
I didn't clip it, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It's a little mini-sode. We're gonna do a little thing. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet Dale, and this is Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast. We talk about media we've consumed in the weeks for wifey types. You get the gist. I have been talking all day today for work, and my voice is decimated.
Are you allowed to talk about what?
I can be vague. I went to a fancy studio and recorded a good chunk of an audiobook today. Can't be very specific, can't tell you when it's happening or what's going on, but I did audiobook recording today.
Yeah, you sat in a little padded room.
Yeah, it was lovely, but it did mean a lot of, very enunciated, pronounced, performed speaking.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, getting my best performance on.
Oh,
and
yes,
as
darling,
such,
yes,
I've got a bit of a sort of tickly throat from doing lots of talking, and
you've still got 2 more days of recording to do.
I do, but I've got a day off in between, so we're keeping it short today, because I've got to rest my voice in between sessions, before I go back in and read another half a book to the mysterious voice that speaks to me out of a speaker that I don't see. The ominous work.
Stop saying words too fast.
Oh, you've read the word you thought was there, not the word that was actually there. You've got to reread that word. So we're just talking about stuff we played this week.
We are just talking about stuff we played this week.
I could do with some rest. It's a long week, this one.
Yeah. So what have you played? What have you been up to?
Where do I start on stuff I've played this week?
Good question. You're right, love.
Yeah, sorry.
Sure?
Tickly throat was getting me, and I'm just trying to shift it.
If you're sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to limp it before bed?
Probably a good shout. Well, I can start by talking about a game I played start to finish in one, I think it was 2.5 hour stream.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't 100% it. I'm going to dip back into it at some point, but it's a very cute little game. It's maybe a $5 called A Tiny Sticker Tale.
Okay.
This is a game I'd seen popping around up about in a couple of places before. I think it was on some of the Wholesome Directs, where you play as a little anthropomorphic donkey, and you have a sticker album, and it's basically... You've got this one page that you can stick stickers onto to keep them for later. It's essentially your inventory. It's as big as whatever stickers you put onto it, taking up, their physical amount of space.
Mm-hmm.
And basically anything you find in the world can be peeled up like a sticker and put in your sticker book and taken to a different screen and put down somewhere else.
Okay.
And this is used for sort of Zelda-esque exploration puzzle solving, and it's not particularly complicated, but you've got little anthropomorphic animal villagers who are like, oh, I've lost my friend, can you help me find them? I want to go visit this place I've never seen. I'm trying to find this special kind of rock. Oh, I can break these rocks for you and help you get in here, but it's too dark at night, I can't see. You're going to have to find a way to make it daytime over here so I can see what I'm doing. And you collect up these little stickers and put them in a little sticker book. And don't think too hard about the fact that some of these stickers are sentient, tangible people that you are just putting in your little collection to pull out later at your own convenience. Don't worry about that.
Unless.
And it's just a game about going and solving a bunch of people's problems and helping a bunch of people with their little tiny tasks through the medium of cute, adorable stickers. It is a very wholesome game that I realised toward the end had a lot more like hidden weird optional side content I hadn't stumbled into to go back to, and I like that there's more of that to do, but it is a game you can play through in maybe 2.5 hours and just have a good wholesome little time. There is not the biggest amount of challenge in the world. It's not a game that's like actively trying to prevent you progressing. I like that there is a pretty clear map for where you have been, where you haven't been, and being able to sort of see on this nice little grid sort of what there is that you've seen. If you're trying to be a completionist and get like a copy of every single sticker so that you have your little sticker album completed, because as long as you get a sticker once, you have a little sticker album that shows you found all the things.
Okay.
You can press a button to just have it show you a tile on the map that has a sticker you haven't yet found. So you're like, go over here, there's something you haven't tried interacting with. It's a really sweet little game. And I don't have a huge amount to say about it, other than if you like the idea of cute animals, a little adventure where you're just being nice to people, and a little sticker book, you can't do too wrong for this. If you're up for the kind of game where it's like 2.5 hours you can play through it, maybe another hour if you want to go back and find all the little collectible things you missed, it's very charming. So yeah, that's a tiny sticker tale, and it's very, very sweet.
It sounds very chill.
It's exactly the kind of thing I needed this week. What about you? What you been playing this week?
Speaking of cute, chill things that we really needed this week, I played it's Steam Next Fest as we record this. So we've got a whole bunch of new demos for games, some of which we've been waiting for a while. And one of those is Snufkin of Moomin Valley.
I've been looking forward to this.
I think this got added to my wish list almost immediately I first saw the first trailer.
Same. The second I saw a trailer, I was like, I need this in my life. And from looking over at you playing the demo, it seems like it is everything I kind of hoped it was going to be.
Yeah, the music's lovely. The art style is a beautiful sort of 2D, like craft paper, scrapbooky type style. It's really lovely and very sweet, and it's got a kind of, like Terranil, undoing all the damage that's been done to the world. Yeah. The plot is basically that, it's winter is coming, and Snufkin's like, okay, I'm off, I'll see you in spring, don't worry about it, Moomin Troll. And Moomin Troll's like, but you'll come back, right? Like, yeah, I'll be back next spring, don't you worry. And you get back next spring, and things are not as they seem.
Yeah.
You meet a little creature hiding in a bush who's a bit scared to meet you. And then you have a little chat, and they're like, I don't have a name. And you're like, well, everyone deserves a name. Maybe we'll find one for you. So it's like, okay, find a name. Okay. There's, like, one of the really nice things I like about it is, as it's introducing things like jumping and picking things up, with jumping, it'll be like, hey, here is where you're going to jump to. So if you're on, like, the edge of, like, a river or something, and you can see the other side, you can tell exactly where you're going to land, or if it's not going to work out for you, so you don't accidentally jump wrong. Yay. I don't know if you can accidentally jump into the water.
No, but it's reassuring to have that feedback, though.
Yeah, it's nice to go, yep, that is, I have done the thing I need to do. And the same with, like, picking up rocks. It's like, this is where it is going to be put down if you point in this direction and press X again, which is obviously quite helpful for things like picking up boulders and slowly dropping in the river to make a little path across.
Yeah,
which is quite nice, and it's always you can usually go slightly further across than I would expect, which has been sort of quite nice to work through. There's this whole mechanic of you've got a harmonica, and certain things like birds or little floaty head things will, if you play them a little tune on your harmonica, then they will help you in some way. And so there are some birds that will like start flying around in a circle, and there'll be a little targeting thing, and you just stop playing at the right moment, and they'll just fly off in that direction and get things. You can rummage through bushes for inspiration, and the higher your level is, the different people you can inspire with your harmonica tunes.
Aww.
And then there's this whole mechanic of, like, somebody's built, like, a proper garden, and there's all these rules you need to follow, and there's all these signs.
Go tear up the signs!
So you just tear up the signs, and if you tear up all of the signs in a particular, like, walled garden area, you'll automatically like tear down all the fences around it and rewild that whole area, and it's very cool. I also like the idea of like, well, there's no rules here anymore, so the police have to just fuck off.
Yep, if there's no signs that say there's rules to enforce, the cops just have to leave, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's got the right kind of cozy resistance to authority that is what I hope for from Snufkin.
Yep. My first radicalization technique. I love it. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's a very short demo. You can probably get through it in about 20 minutes. But it is beautiful, and I look forward to seeing how that goes when it is more done. What about you?
Well, I played another demo that is available as part of Steam Next Fest, and this is the demo for Another Crab's Treasure, which is a colourful hermit crab Dark Souls with accessibility.
And a gun.
And a gun. We'll get to the gun. So, on the surface, it's a Dark Souls. It's one of those, there are big tough bosses and you get souls and you use them to level up your stats. I like that there's only like 4 stats. It's health, defense, attack, and I think it's magic. And in terms of like armor and equipment, it's pretty simple. Throughout the world, you will constantly find bits of trash in the ocean that you can use as hermit crab shells. They will get damaged over time, and they will have like how much defense they provide you and how fragile they are. So some things will be like very high defense but be brittle, so they can only take a certain number of hits, but they will block stronger hits.
Okay.
And there's a lot of these you're constantly like picking things up as you go and sort of shuffling through. And it's about purging microplastics from the ocean and clearing the ocean of pollution by being a little hermit crab. And it's adorable, but also it's got accessibility support, and that's great. There are options for things like slowing down game speed, reducing enemy damage, reducing enemy health pools, increasing the window of time in which you can dodge or parry safely and either avoid taking damage or sort of stun your opponent. Lots of really good accessibility settings that are there to customize your difficulty experience. And I like the approach they have when you go to the accessibility menu where they're like, the game is intended to be hard, but we know that what is hard for one person is different to what's hard for other people. So like, if it's not fun for you, here's the settings, enjoy. Including, there is a setting called Give Krill a Gun, which puts a gun that's like 5 times bigger than this little hermit crab, puts on the hermit crab's back, and it will one-hit kill any enemy, bosses included. You just shoot them with gun. So if you are trying to like get your way back to a boss and you just are getting too frustrated with having to redo the fight, you know, from the checkpoint to the boss, or there's a boss that you're just like, I just can't get past this and I just want to keep playing, you can just turn on gun and shoot with gun and it's fine. And I like that very much. I think the game is really charming. I like that it's colourful. There's not enough colourful Dark Souls games. I like that there's fun traversal mechanics that take advantage of the fact you're in the water. Like, you can hold down the jump button in a double jump to sort of kick your legs and sort of swim and stay at roughly the same height for quite a while.
Okay.
And little things like that.
Like a Yoshi little...
Yeah, sort of kicking your legs to sort of keep yourself roughly where you were at. It's very cute, and I am very excited to see where this goes. It is a very wholesome seeming game, and it's rare that I would say the word wholesome for a Dark Souls game, but it's good, and I'm excited. What about you? You played anything else this week?
Yeah, I've been playing another demo called Below the Stone. This is a action roguelite procedurally generated game where you are a little dwarf who is sent down into a mine to do little missions, and you get to pick how many missions you do, and depending on how many you pick, you will potentially get larger and larger rewards. You need to take at least one, and if you've got more than one, you need to do at least one before you're allowed to call a drop pod and try and escape. It's an interesting mechanic. I'm not had many runs at it yet, and certainly no successful ones apart from the tutorial of here is how move, here is how pickaxe works. It's interesting to see that they're talking about the fact that like the most recent update to it, even though it's not officially been released yet, is that they've added controller support.
Okay.
Which means it works lovely on the Steam Deck. But one thing I have noticed is that it's got like a scroll wheel through your hotbar, and I imagine if you're playing mouse keyboard, that's probably just a click button do thing.
Yeah.
But with a controller, you've got to like scroll to the right thing, and then use the attack button to use the thing, be that like your health or your pickaxe or your weapon.
Sort of like your it's probably not super accurate. Like your Xenoblade scroll through your MMO wheel sort of
that
system.
kind of like scroll through, find the action you want, and do the thing. Which, you know, when you're looking for food in the heat of battle, is a little bit difficult, especially if you've got like a couple of types of food, or you've run out of like your two base types of food.
I am curious, could you on Steam Deck map one of the 4 back buttons maybe to be a keyboard number input?
Maybe. I haven't looked sort of more into it. I was just like, I've had a couple of runs today, probably about 3 runs today, and enjoying it so far. And I am looking forward to trying a bit more. I basically went through like the Next Fest list yesterday.
Yeah.
And was like, let's just grab a bunch of demos and see how they do.
That is probably my tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I grabbed a whole bunch. It's been nice to look through, although I was sort of a bit annoyed by... Because I was just scroll through that and I saw one and I was like, Parasite Eve? They're bringing Parasite Eve to PC? No, it's not. It's just a porn game that's called, like, Parasite Evil or something. No. Steam! What else have you played?
Well, I've started playing a bit of Whisker Squadron Survival.
Ooh, I played the demo for that.
Yeah.
How's the full thing?
I'm digging it. So this is that, Star Fox-esque Survivors game where you're sort of like ship with a 3D game, your position behind the ship.
On rails tunnel.
Enemies in front of you, you're in a tunnel, shoot all the things, avoid getting shot. And I've been having fun with it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that this game has, again, a bunch of accessibility options for someone like me that's not super great at these, for things like, I don't know how many of these, if any, are in the demo, but things like having a degree of auto-targeting or sort of assisted targeting, being able to do things like reducing incoming damage and stuff like that. There's a few things in there that are useful to have as options, but...
Interesting.
Yeah, I've been doing pretty well. My first couple of runs were, like, more successful than I expected them to be, and that's allowed me to unlock a few additional characters and start upgrading things. It's fun to play around with the Survivors genre in a different mechanical set of like gameplay tools, and I'm having fun with it.
Yes, I'm enjoying that whole aspect of the Vampire Survivors style. Hey, you've got a like pick from a bunch of power ups, and like you can either like try and maybe you've got, like, more powerful lasers, and you can keep putting more points into the more powerful lasers, but also you could be like, hey, you could have more bombs, or holding more bombs, or magnetically attract the experience. Because in something like Vampire Survivors, you can, like, do a loop around and grab it back, but in this, because you're, like, flying down a corridor, if it's gone, it's kind of gone.
Yes. And I've definitely found that this, more than a lot of Survivors games, makes you sort of make a concerted choice between getting a little bit of a lot of things or specializing it on just like one thing. It's not... It doesn't feel as designed for, I'll slowly pick up a few things sort of as I'm going, I'll work it out. It's like, no, have a plan. Are you doing a little of everything or are you doing one thing?
Yeah.
Which we'll see if when I put more time into it that changes, but sort of right now it feels like I need to pick one of the two paths and like know up front that I'm going for that.
I mean, and I think sometimes that is a pretty good thing to do, just to, like, have an idea of what your build is going to be from the off. And I know with things like Vampire Survivors, obviously, that's just something you pick up from playing a lot. It's like, I know what works best for me, which characters are best, how I want to go about upgrading them, and then obviously that leading into, I know what the synergies are and what things are going to mix together to make the super weapons.
And that's still the phase I'm in with this game, is the working out what my playstyle is phase. Like, I'm having fun, but I've yet to go, like, oh, this is me using Poe with the garlic, this is how I want to play every time.
Yeah. But it's got a very lovely, like, 90s neon aesthetic.
I love all of the 2D character art of the anthropomorphic
Mostly
sort of
cats, I think.
yeah, all of the sort of cat sci-fi space pilots all have very cool designs.
It's not a Star Fox, it's a Star Kitty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed my time with the demo, and it's sort of been sat on my wish list. It's like, I'm going to get it eventually. I think I was waiting for a bit more content to be added to it, because I know when it first launched into early access, a lot of people were like, there's not really much here.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see how it's doing, because I think that was one of the most interesting ones from either last Next Fest or possibly even the Next Fest before.
Yeah.
It's been nice to see lots of demos this year.
Yeah.
Because for a while it felt like demos just weren't a thing anyone did anymore.
Yeah, Next Fest has slowly been the revival of game demos, and it's good to see it happening.
It is, because I think it helps you, like, take more risks of, like, try things out you might never have otherwise tried.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, I definitely appreciate that.
Nice.
What else? What else you got?
I've only really played one other thing that we're going to talk about today. We're gonna save some other things till next week. But
Yes. After embargoes.
I have played the first 2.5-3 hours of Detective Pikachu Returns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Detective Pikachu 3DS game. You play as Tim Goodman. He's in the game. He is generic McWhite boy.
Is that the same, like, name of the character from the film?
That is the same as the name as the character from the film, who's played by Justice Smith. I think the name was. My Twitch chat last night was just full of people going, "Where's Justice Smith? Why have you whitewashed Justice Smith?" But yes, you play.
It was always going to happen when they brought the sequel out.
You play Tim Goodman. Your dad's vanished. Your dad's Pikachu now has your dad's hat, and you can hear him talking like the Pikachu talking like a grizzled detective. Wonder what's up with that.
Did you play through the first one?
I did, yes.
And does the first one end anything like the movie?
No.
Okay.
And the second one kind of addresses this. So, differences with the game. The first game does not resolve with you finding out what the deal with Tim's missing dad is.
Yeah.
And with Pikachu the detective.
Okay.
That is not resolved.
Do they solve the murder?
So it takes kind of a different route, but it is still kind of about the Argas that's turning Pokemon sort of feral.
The chunky gas from
yeah.
1989 movie.
It's still sort of about that. But Tim has a sister and a mum who are around and present in the games, which Detective Pikachu Returns, fun fact, in the universe of this sequel, they made a film about the events of the first game, in which the mum and sister comment on the fact that they weren't included in that the movie did not acknowledge their existence.
Beautiful.
And talks about, like, sometimes movies have to take liberties when adapting stories. The sense of humour is quite fun.
Amazing.
So, the Detective Pikachu, the first game on 3DS, it is a fairly simple children's detective adventure game.
Okay.
Pikachu interrogates and sort of talks to the Pokemon. Mm-hmm. Tim talks to the humans. Together, you get to the end bottom of a mystery.
Okay.
Not particularly hugely challenging, but a fun maybe like 15 hours of solve some cases, go through a narrative. Even if occasionally you will be like, okay, I'm like 4 steps ahead of the game. I gotta do the steps that will let me point
I have to
at the
show
thing.
my working.
I have to show my work. I haven't found the evidence that lets me show my work of the thing I've worked out. But the reward for, like, persevering through having to a little laboriously show your working is usually pretty fun cutscenes that are, like, voice acted and do a good job of, like, bringing personality to what comes to pass. Detective Pikachu Returns. I very much enjoyed the first case. I think that once you get through the tutorial that's a little hand-holdy, the first case, I could see some of the big beats coming from, like, maybe halfway through. I had a pretty good picture of what the crime was. I was pretty impressed with some of the, like, surprise twists and turns that happened. Mm-hmm. There's one point where a reveal happened, and I was like, I'm annoyed at that reveal. It doesn't make sense. I don't like it. that this game is bad. This game had a bad answer to that question. And then it turned out that wasn't the answer, and I was supposed to recognize that made no sense.
Okay.
And it twisted back another way.
You were supposed to shout objection.
Exactly, and that felt like good writing. They had me on the hook enough that I believed they were foolish, and then I was like, you got me, I didn't see.
Okay.
And something I thought was very obvious in the first case, the game really wants to suggest by the end of the first case was just not the case at all. And I kind of hope they don't retcon that in later cases. I'm like, I really hope that you set up such a good red herring that I just completely was on the wrong track there.
Okay.
I enjoyed the first case. I will say...
I did like when you were explaining sort of how you put your evidence together for that. That sounded really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. There was, with no context, I solved a crime by pointing out that a man had not had a knife punched into his face.
In this my first detective game.
Yes, you were not punched in the face by a knife, sir. It was a pivotal plot point. I'm pretty sure I'd be able to tell if a knife punched you in the face.
A knife.
But yeah. I'm very invested in this game, though I have heard some fascinating things about allegedly where this plot is going.
Okay.
The summary I heard, minor spoilers, is that this is ultimately a game about police profiling.
Uh-huh.
And about, like, the problems with police profiling people based on aspects of how they were born that were outside of their control.
Excellent.
It seems like it's a racial profiling analog, but for, like, Dark-type Pokemon.
But we're talking about that's a bad thing, at least.
Yeah, at least it's a bad thing. Now, I don't know how much I trust Detective Pikachu Returns to be a tasteful, nuanced narrative about the problems with police racial profiling. But if true, I am fascinated to see how they get there. But I'm having fun with this not too mentally taxing little detective adventure game where there are Pokemon around.
Yes.
Have you played anything else this week?
I was just going to quickly ask, would you say it manages to be way less obtuse and confusing than something like a Phoenix Wright with you should have noticed this one thing about this thing?
100%. All of the clues will be very obvious. The biggest problem you will have is I've worked out this thing and I've tried to jump ahead to the answer and it's like, no, I have to go back and like do some steps that lead me to the thing. I can't just go to the place where I know the thing's gonna happen. The thing won't happen until I show my working and work my way there.
Is there like time limits or anything?
No time limits or anything.
Just do the thing in your own pace, work it out.
You can even stop and you can even be doing side quests in the middle of the main mission with no negative.
You've got 3 days to get this case out, Pikachu.
The only other difference, I think, for the sequel, and I've only experienced one example of this so far, is that sometimes other Pokemon will have special abilities that they will use to help you in the crime. Like,
help you do the crime. Yay!
The one example I found so far was a Growlithe that has a good nose for sniffing. So if you can teach it a scent, you can then sort of have Pikachu ride on the Growlithe's back and go around sniffing and following a little trail. It's sort of like the Twilight Princess Wolf Link trail following. And I'm curious to see what other abilities we will find. But yeah, it's been pretty fun.
Yeah.
You played anything else this week?
I played one other thing that's worth chatting about. I played another Survivors game.
Yeah.
It's called Crafty Survivors.
Yeah, do you want to tell us about Crafty Survivors?
Yeah, so I kind of got linked onto this one because I was chatting in the Deep Rock Galactic Survivor Steam forums about how much I enjoy this and the way it connects the Deep Rock, a lot of the aspects of Deep Rock, like the limited amount of time to get to the escape pod at the end of the mission, the digging, the different enemies, the whole existing world of Deep Rock Galactic. And someone was like, yeah, but I don't think it does it as well as a lot of other games in this genre. I was like, okay, give me ideas.
Yeah, what should I be looking at that's better than this?
The game they suggested was Crafty Survivors, which is fascinating.
Yeah, good fascinating, or this is bad and I have lots of thoughts fascinating?
It has moments that are frustrating. And by moments, I mean multiple hours that are just like, okay, sure. And then it sort of gets over a bump and is really interesting again. The thing is, I don't know how many more of those bumps there are, and I also don't know how much game there is right now, because this one is also in early access. But it's like £3, so I wasn't going to be too bothered if it wasn't entirely there just yet. But basically, it is a very cartoony art style. You start off with one character who is a chef, and you've got aspects of city building, town building, resource gathering, and obviously the whole survivors thing. So you'll go into an area. There will be a map eventually as you progress further through the stage. If you choose to go out of one exit or another, you will basically, that's the end of the run, and those runs tend to be, I'd say, about 20 minutes. So it's a fair length. There's a difficult boss enemy. There's a bunch of elite enemies that you'll bump into throughout that, and you'll progress sort of slowly through the map, and different sort of stages within a map will have different resources that you can take back to town to unlock buildings and evolve buildings. So some buildings might be like, hey, we're just going to add a whole new mechanic. Here's the bank. If you stick some money in the bank, it will accrue interest per run. And then you can take it out. And money is one of the resources that you will need for just about everything regarding building the town. But then there's other things like, hey, you need wood. You might need bits of flowers or vines or something. There's 5 different resources just in the first area.
Okay.
Plus a special one that you find for beating the boss at the end of that first area that you then have to farm a little bit. Now, the main problem is that when you don't successfully complete a run, you are still getting the resources. And there does feel like there's a whole thing of the game is just too hard at first. And don't get me wrong, I've obviously played Vampire Survivors. I know not winning your first few runs, or even your first few hours of runs necessarily, is to be expected in a new one of these. But this just feels like you are literally just waiting until you've got enough wood to build a particular building that will make your skills more powerful. That has been kind of dull. But what I do really love about it, especially with the first character, is the way you can build your character. Okay. So every time you level up, you'll get offered a bunch of different power-ups, and they might be things like your basic attack. Just make that more powerful. And all of these can be set to either automatic or manual. And if automatic will do a full charged attack on your basic standard attack thing. But anytime you get a special skill, it will only do the quick chuck out version of it, the lowest possible ability, because a lot of them will slow you down while they're charging. Okay, and I guess having that on automatic is a bit annoying. But there's hey, especially with the first character, you've got a whole concept of, do you want to make hot food or desserts? If you're making hot foods, you've got to do a couple of things. You've got to use your basic attack on an enemy. That will give it the chopped status. Then you've got to use either the salt or the pepper power. The salt rain randomly targets enemies in an area and will rain salt. If you've got pepper, it's basically a shotgun. It comes with 3 charges and then it does a little recharge. Okay, cool. You've got chopped on an enemy. You've got seasoned on an enemy. Now you need to cook them. So you need to get a power-up that will be ovens, and you'll throw a little oven and it'll do a big fire attack around it. Or there's another one that's a frying pan that's a vortex that sucks everything into the frying pan, and then it does a big flambe at the end. If you get all 3 of those statuses on an enemy before they die, you will start to get your serve meter charged.
Okay.
When you hit 20 on your serve meter, you'll do a big AoE attack and become temporarily invincible while that's going off. And it's pretty cool. The alternative is you go with desserts. So you'll need to chop again. and then you might, I think it's candy them.
Yeah.
And it'll be things like throw like cinnamon spikes that randomly come up out of the ground, or I can't remember. There's a you can fire like a big catapult glob on the floor of caramel, and if they run through that, they'll become like candied. And then you need to freeze them. So you'll either get one which is like a spray that's, I think it's like a liquid nitrogen spray.
Okay.
Or the other one's like a big freezer that does a big AoE of cold. And again, if you get all three of those, you will charge your serve meter. It's a fascinating idea about, especially with that character, that you can go, I've got 5 slots, and if I get all 5 related to hot foods, I will unlock like a special power, and I think that's like sriracha sauce that you throw as it will both season and fire them. So if you've chopped them already, you can do like a sriracha sauce ball at people, which is just a really fascinating idea, and there's something similar with cold as well.
Yeah.
And you'll get like sort of told, I guess you could do a mix and match of the two, but you probably wouldn't.
You're benefited for like picking a lane.
Yeah, and that's quite interesting. Then you've got the next character you unlock is like a craftsman who their basic attack is a chisel, and occasionally you'll like use one button to throw down a log, and if you can chisel it 3 times with your basic attack, it will turn into a statue and do like a big AoE.
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to like keep it close enough that it doesn't just despawn.
Yeah.
While also like being completely mobbed by enemies.
Yeah.
But that character also gets like, here's a bigger chunk of wood. You're trying to like hit it 3 times to get like a dragon head, and it will do like a fireball in one direction. Or there's another one that's just like a big like a suction thing. There's like higher skill level ones. There's one where you've got to like make a statue of the moon out of marble, but marble requires 5 hits because it's a much tougher material. And staying close to something in like when you're being absolutely swarmed is really difficult.
Yeah.
There's a seamstress you can unlock who does this really fascinating thing with like putting needles down into the ground with thread linked to them, and one of the powers is like launching like electricity down the thread.
Ooh.
So you can like basically just keep trailing this thread out behind you, and then like electrify it while all the enemies are just running and sort of go back and forth slightly. Just yep, and you get a zappy, and you get a zappy. That whole character is fascinating, but really difficult, or at least I have struggled with it. The new character I've unlocked most recently is probably my favourite now, and they're a lumberjack.
Okay.
They've got a little beaver friend, and the beaver will just run around the map, just gnawing on trees.
Yeah.
And if you press a button, the beaver will come sliding towards you on its dummy, and do like a big water splash as it gets to the place where you summoned it from, and that will do sort of AoE, and you can power that up in various ways. You can make your axe more powerful. You can get powers that do you'll just swing around with your axe outstretched and just do like the super spin attack in Wind Waker. If you don't fully charge it, there is every possibility that your character will sort of get a bit dizzy and exhausted and fall over, which is really bad when you're being swarmed. That whole character thread is absolutely fascinating. There's probably more characters to unlock. There's, I've just sort of got over a bit of a hump. I'm into the second area, which is this beautiful autumnal wood. There's a whole bunch of new things to go picking up from there. And I've discovered that if you take the lumberjack to certain levels that you've already been to, there might be a place where you can chop down some trees, and that will reveal a different exit to that map.
Ooh.
That will just let you go and do, like, a whole batch of secret levels. It's fascinating, but there is like a whole, yep, you're probably not going to be winning a lot of these runs for a really long time, and you might end up like switching between the character you know who can do the most damage outputs, but won't necessarily be getting you all of the secrets, just to do, hey, I'm just grabbing as many resources as I can so that I can increase my weapon damage.
Yeah.
so that I can go back and try with other characters.
It's a rough on board from the sound of it.
It was, I think I put maybe 15 hours into it, and I've probably genuinely enjoyed about 4 of those.
Yeah, because, Vampire Survivors has a little of that, but nowhere to that degree.
I think my very first run through Vampire Survivors, when I very first picked it up, I was days before I finished a run.
I mean...
And that was partly because I had got as far as opening things like Inlaid Library, but I hadn't bothered going there.
Yeah.
Because I was like, if I'm no good at the first map, why would I go to the second one?
I mean, same, but I didn't feel like I was doing bad.
Yeah,
in the way
I
that
always
it
felt
sounds
like
like you felt with this.
Yeah, I think with Vampire Survivors, I always felt like it was getting a little bit, further through. Even when it was like, I don't really understand that I've got as far as death, and what does that necessarily mean? But, yeah, this has had a rough onboarding, but it has so many fascinating ideas. It definitely is doing Vampire Survivors differently, but it is unless you want to do that grind, and I see a lot of people in the Steam forums talking about how grindy it feels, but there is a good game in there. And it's still in early access. Maybe things will be, slightly refined and make it more fun. But, not... If you're looking for something that kind of scratches that itch and has a decent amount of content for £3, Crafty Survivors is an option.
Yeah.
Have you got anything else, my darling?
No, that's it for stuff I'm going to talk about today.
Well then, where can people find you on the internet, my darling?
I can be found at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere on the internet. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills. Blue Sky, Mastodon, Laura K. Buzz, all the places. The big one, October 19th. That is a week away at this point, a little over a week away. Stories of Autistic Joy. It's kind of like Gender Euphoria, but it's about autism. Yeah. That's the quick pitch. Go check out a bunch of happy stories from autistic people about autism happiness. Stories of Autistic Joy, October 19th. It's real soon. What about you?
Patreon.com/StonedMonkeyRadio. That's the one that helps me justify all of the exhaustion and doing all the stuff. But also you can find all my stuff on my link tree. It's linkter.ee/Janiac, Janiac. You can find music I make, t-shirts I design, things I write, and all sorts of other stuff. You can find all my social links, and And if you hit me up on Mastodon, if you want to join our Discord, we've got a lovely little Stoned Monkey Radio Discord, and all the people there are very lovely and good.
Yeah.
And I stream on Thursday nights. Come say hi to the Sexy Potato Squad. I've nearly finished Signalis after, 5 episodes so far, and a 6th one probably going up on Thursday. So yeah. Laura, darling.
Yes?
Will you sing us out, please?
Until next time, be a stranger.